Hello, Davises. My name is Irene, the occupational therapist working with Cassie and both of you today. Since you have not received occupational therapy services before, I would first like to explain the differences between medical-based OT and school-based OT. Medical-based occupational therapy is a service that is provided if a person shows medical necessity for skilled OT services, whereas school-based OT ensures that the needs of the children I work with are educationally related. Medicaid and children's health insurance plans are the main payer sources for this type of OT service. Medicaid can cover your child up to 21 years old, whereas children's health insurance plan can cover up to age 19. This payer source is for families who may not qualify for Medicare, but may not also be able to afford private health insurance. There are other entities that pay for medical-based occupational therapy, and if you're interested in further learning more about what is provided in Arizona, you can let me know. To be referred for occupational therapy services in the medical model of OT, an order or a prescription from a medical doctor must occur. I am not able to work with clients such as Cassie unless a physician has cleared me to do so in the medical model. When all goals are met in the medical model, I can discharge my clients. For school-based OT services, Medicaid is the primary payer source. Occupational therapists are hired through a school district or a contract company, and these entities are the ones who usually handle the billing. Additionally, in school-based OT, no physician referral is required. The child must be identified to be at risk in areas that relate to occupational therapy, though signed consent is mandatory for you both as the parents of Cassie. With both medical and school-based occupational therapy, an evaluation must be completed, though this evaluation must be completed within 90 calendar days of signed parental consent for school-based OT. Additionally, treatment is based on the plan of care and established goals that we collaborate on in both settings. As an OT, I am required to make quarterly reports within the school year in the educational setting. When the child is no longer qualifying for occupational therapy services or does not qualify for special education, I am required to discharge them from therapy services in the educational model. Now that you have a little bit of more of an understanding about the differences between school-based OT and medically based OT, I want to chat a bit about Cassie in our evaluation today. I just evaluated Cassie, and I want to make sure that you both fully understand some of the scoring that I use to carry out my assessments. On this sheet, you will find that there are some terms such as a raw score, standard deviation, standard score, percentile, age equivalence, confidence interval, and z-score. I will break down the interpretation of these numbers for you so it's easier to digest. A raw score is the basic, unaltered score on any given test. It is the number of questions Cassie answered correctly. For instance, since this test has 20 items in this category and Cassie answered 13 of them correctly, a raw score here is 13. After you receive a raw score, they are typically converted to standard scores before being used to compare them to other populations. To work with numbers, they should be in the same language, so that is why we convert these numbers to be on a common scale. A standard score is a set of scores that have the same mean and same standard deviation so that they can be compared. A standard score is also known as a z-score. A standard score or a z-score gives you an idea of how far from the average a data point is. A standard score is a way to compare results to a typical population. For instance, if you know that Cassie weighs 70 pounds and you want to compare to the average weight of children her age, looking at a large table of data can be overwhelming. Therefore, a z-score can tell you where Cassie's weight is compared to the average population's average weight for kids her age. A standard deviation is a way of dividing up the standard scores. It is easier to see and interpret in graph form. A standard deviation is a mathematical way of grouping people together based on how much variance or differences there is in a set of scores. You want to see how much a number varies from the average number in a series. The importance of standard deviations is so that they can allow for easy groupings and predictions. A low standard deviation means that the data is very closely related to the average, thus very reliable. However, a high standard deviation means that there's a large variance between the data and the average and is not reliable, or not as reliable. For example, if a class of students just took an English test and their teacher is curious to see whether most students are performing at the same level, the teacher can calculate a standard deviation to see if there is a high deviation. If there's a high variance, this means that the scores are spread out all over the place and that the students are not performing at the same level. If the variance was low, this will correlate to a low standard deviation and indicate that the students are all performing at similar levels. A percentile is a number where certain percentages of scores fall below a certain number. If Cassie scored in the 85th percentile in her fine motor skills, according to the evaluation we just completed, this means that she scored better than 85% of children her age who also completed the evaluation. Age equivalence is a comparison of your child's performance compared to age groups whose average scores are in the same range. For example, if Cassie scores a 42 raw score on this assessment, then that score is average for her 6-year-old age mates. Her age equivalent score would be a 6. A confidence interval expresses to what degree a score is guaranteed to be accurate. Since a test cannot claim to be 100% accurate of any score, this interval claims strong accuracy based on a range of scores. For instance, if Cassie received a scale score of 8 for fine motor on this evaluation with a 95% confidence interval range of 7 to 9, this would mean that with high certainty, 95% certainty to be exact, Cassie's true scores lie between 7 and 9, even if the received score of 8 is not 100% accurate. 95% confidence intervals tend to provide more narrow ranges of scores, which correlates to higher accuracy. So I hope this information was helpful for you both in terms of breaking down the scores of Cassie's assessment. As occupational therapists, we take this information and discuss the best plan of care collaboratively so that Cassie and other kiddos can excel in their life occupations. Let me know if you guys have any other questions or concerns, and I look forward to working with Cassie and you both.